Opening a restaurant in Paris is a big dream for many restaurateurs, especially if your dad's helping out and a famous Michelin star chef is on board. Scottish-born Rachel McNally made that dream a reality when she opened Piccolo Teatro in a busy neighborhood full of popular eateries. She saw a chance to fill a gap by starting a vegetarian spot, even though less than 2% of people in France at the time were vegetarians, a much lower rate than in neighboring countries.
Paris screams sex, glamour, indulgence, and hedonism. Everything that vegetarian food isn't, but needs to be.
Rachel's cozy 25-seat bistro was meant to be a hit. Despite Rachel's best intentions and her dad's hefty investment, mounting debts and an empty dining room reveal that she isn't really running the place as well as she should be. With only her best friend Stephanie serving as waitress, and an eccentric head chef named Daniel working in a cramped kitchen, it's clear something's off. Was Chef Ramsay able to save the restaurant, or not? Let's find out.
Always dreamt of having my own restaurant in Paris, and finally, it's here. Unfortunately, it's a fucking vegetarian restaurant.
As Ramsay arrives, his first question is how the fellow Scot ended up in the City of Lights.
How does a beautiful Scot find herself in the middle of Paris running a vegetarian restaurant?
French man originally.
Okay.
Rachel started as a customer, loving the vegetarian menu, became a waitress there, and eventually bought the place. Going inside, Gordon is excited to be back in Paris, though he is less thrilled about working with a plant-based menu. Heading through the restaurant, Ramsay is introduced to Daniel in French. The chef proudly shows off his cupboard of a kitchen by bouncing around the tiny space. Daniel wastes no time by suggesting that Ramsay should try the pistachio lasagna. Ramsay, not sure what to make of Daniel, agrees with his suggestion, although he is somewhat skeptical of the chef.
This is normal? Yes.
Welcome to the madhouse.
So we got a pistachio nut, a walnut, and now a Brazilian nut.
For a starter, Ramsay chooses the supposedly famous hummus salad, which turns out to be topped with raisins and dried onions. It's disgusting. And when she's asked to rate the food, server Stephanie struggles to find the right words.
Not particularly spectacularly exceptional.
Next is a mushy carrot gratin, so awful he spits it out. Rachel defensively insists the dishes are fine, and that most of the customers leave satisfied, despite the restaurant losing $5,000 a month. Ramsay bluntly reminds them that selling vegetarian food to France, a nation of avid meat lovers, was never going to be easy, especially not with food this bad. Feeling he is not getting through to either the owner or the chef, Ramsay leaves. That evening, as dinner service begins, the simmering tensions boil over. Rachel is visibly anxious, but Chef Daniel has shockingly done no prep at all. He nonchalantly claims he'll just make something up as orders come in. This casual approach backfires horribly. When customers arrive, Daniel spends 20 minutes preparing 2 simple garden salads as orders pile up. Chaos ensues in the tiny kitchen. Under pressure, Daniel starts burning food and pointedly refuses anyone's help, growing ever more combative.
This Brazilian nut has lost his marbles.
He even blames Chef Ramsay for his failures, claiming that it's Ramsay's fault for putting him on the spot. It's obvious Rachel has zero authority over her chef. Daniel openly shows no respect for her at all. When Ramsay and Rachel try to get him to shape up, Daniel grows even more combative, refusing any help. Finally, Rachel orders Daniel out of the kitchen, but he throws a tantrum instead of leaving. Things hit a dangerous peak when Daniel sneaks back into the kitchen and then starts waving a knife and fork around. Ramsay has had enough after wresting the cutlery from his hand. Showing his signature tough love, he forces Daniel out, carrying him down the street. Upon his return, Daniel is denied entry once more, and in a final farewell, he prances away, never to be seen again. The evening comes to a close with Rachel reporting that they've taken just €150, a disaster for Saturday night service. Before Ramsay departs, he tells Rachel and Stephanie that they must take things more seriously at the restaurant going forward if they want to be successful. With Daniel gone, the next thing to do is completely cleanse the entire place from top to bottom the following morning. They get to work throwing out rotten vegetables, removing layers of grease from every surface, and dumping all the rubbish in the bins out back. With the place now spick and span, Ramsay's next challenge is figuring out how to make a vegetarian restaurant successful in Paris. With few locals being vegetarian, he decides to target tourists instead. But even that is a struggle, finding anyone looking for meat-free alternatives. Back at the restaurant, Gordon is shocked to learn that the sous chef never salts her food. Despite just telling the staff to take things more seriously and to keep things clean, Ramsay playfully throws salt around.
Ooh, in England we go like this, brings you good luck, yes?
Yes.
So now every day I want to put salt, fuck.
Realizing that the key to a good restaurant is good food, Ramsay starts by revamping the menu. He adds a rich and hearty 2-bean chili, along with cheese and tomato eggplant gratin to replace a soggy mess he had the day before. However, the restaurant still lacks a head chef. At 6 p.m., when dinner service begins, it's just Ramsay in the kitchen. There are no customers, Stephanie is out sick, and Rachel had to care for her pregnant cat. When the owner eventually arrives, she calls her best friend, but takes time to update her on her pregnant cat before asking when she's coming in. Stephanie finally arrives, and Gordon asks the pair if they are serious about the restaurant, because they've shown zero commitment, and he would rather go home. When he calls Stephanie a fake, she responds that she feels harassed and insulted, and leaves. With just one staff member left in the restaurant, Gordon takes a walk, leaving Rachel to fix the mess on her own. With her key staff gone and the restaurant on the edge of collapse, things seem lost. Panicked, Rachel borrows a waitress from a neighboring cafe, and even tries to operate the kitchen area herself, a task she's never really handled. Despite the foolproof, pre-prepared dishes, she's visibly relieved to see Gordon return to help out. Still, Gordon doubts Rachel's level of desire. But with his help, the food leaves the kitchen, and so far the diners are satisfied this time. In the middle of service, Rachel's father calls with good news. He's found a potential head chef for the restaurant. Despite the evening starting off as a disaster, it finished on a positive note. Gordon is pleased that Rachel seems to have started running her restaurant instead of playing at it. Since she's proved her commitment, he's ready to help her again. The following day, Ramsay takes matters into his own hands with a daring move. Without informing Rachel, he opens Piccolo Teatro for lunch to demonstrate that lunch service can be successful. Rachel argued that opening for lunch would require too much work and wouldn't be worth the effort. Ramsay does it all. He stands outside holding a sign, drawing in tourists with a simple €6 menu, a bowl of hot tomato soup, and a grilled cheese on toast, and then runs the entire lunch service by himself.
I don't even work this hard in my own restaurant.
Serve the other people first.
Right, that's very kind, thank you. Je suis dans la merde.
When Rachel finally shows up with happy news about her cat having kittens, Gordon offers her a bowl of soup. She hasn't noticed the lunch sign outside and can't believe the pile of cash that Ramsay hands her from his morning's work. He's taken €450, and Rachel agrees it's a simple change that could turn her business around. There's more good news on the way. Rachel's father, Brian, has flown in from Scotland with young chef India, who is ready to lead the kitchen. After India checks into her hotel, Gordon asks Rachel's father what's wrong with the restaurant.
I think her weaknesses are running a business.
And you're going to be here for the next 3 months, right?
After his discussion with Rachel and Brian, Gordon can't resist returning to the tiny 215 square foot, or 20-meter flat, he lived in as a young trainee chef. Remembering how inspiring the city was at the beginning of his career, he takes India to the local market to see the fresh ingredients she'll be using. India swiftly immerses herself, even picking up some French food vocabulary, while also exploring a range of new vegetarian recipes. It looks like Rachel will finally have a competent chef by her side. Back at the restaurant, it seems Brian's pep talk with his daughter has worked because Rachel arrived early to prepare for service. In the kitchen, Ramsay demonstrates a classic French starter for India: pan-fried mushrooms on buttered brioche. In a brief team meeting before dinner service, Ramsay notices India's nervousness and shares with her that she is the same age he was during his training in Paris at 23 years old. Despite initial fear, India performs brilliantly. The food quality soars, and plates leave the kitchen quickly to delighted customers. The dramatic contrast makes one thing clear: Rachel herself must now rise to the occasion because, with a solid chef in place, she can no longer hide behind kitchen problems. Purely for research purposes, Gordon takes the owners for a glass of champagne and some uniquely French entertainment. Rachel is inspired by what she sees and agrees that her menu needs to be more surprising and exciting. They're ready to make Piccolo Teatro's food sexy and vibrant. Gordon plans to take to the streets, offering French tarts filled with herbed goat cheese and rich chocolate mousse. Surrounded by French can-can dancers and wearing a t-shirt reading, "I am a vegetarian tart," Gordon is hoping to draw in the crowds. And it works. The bite-sized tarts are a big hit, and word is spreading about Rachel's restaurant. Chef Ramsay is convinced that India could be the key to Rachel's future success, and is delighted to hear that she has agreed to move from Edinburgh to Paris. As they prepare for relaunch night, India adds her own beetroot and goat's cheese salad to the menu. It's delicious and complements the other rich and indulgent dishes. Everyone is ready for the relaunch service, except for Rachel. She's forgotten to buy baguettes. Gordon rushes out to the boulangerie and returns with several loaves, in clear irritation about the owner's careless and ungrateful attitude. Customers start arriving, and orders come in fast. India and Gordon work together to get food out to happy diners, and there is a queue out the door. The relaunch proves successful, bringing in over €1,000 in just one night. Ramsay congratulates India on her fantastic work and warns Rachel to keep up the effort, or else he'll return to run the restaurant himself. After all, he'd love to have his own restaurant in Paris. As Ramsay leaves, he still worries whether she can truly change. 6 weeks later, Ramsay is back in Paris to check up on Rachel in Piccolo Teatro. But when he gets to the restaurant, he's disappointed to find that it is closed permanently. He meets India at a local cafe, where she tells him what happened. When she returned from a brief trip home to gather her belongings for the move to Paris, Rachel had disappeared, leaving her father to deal with huge debts and India without a job. Chef Ramsay is disappointed for the young and enthusiastic chef and promises her some work experience in one of his London restaurants. Rachel agrees to meet Gordon to explain what happened. But as the time approaches, her father appears and tells Gordon she is backed out. Inside the restaurant, they sit down to discuss the debts that Rachel built up. Her father paid off one loan and is hoping to sell the business to recoup some of his money. 40 minutes later, Rachel decides to join them. She admits that she shut the doors after Gordon left and hadn't returned, leaving India to deal with a disgusting mess that built up in her absence. But she doesn't regret her decision to walk away from the business, telling Ramsay she is sleeping properly for the first time in 3 years. Gordon is furious, calling her lazy and irresponsible, and asks how she can waste her father's money so easily. Rachel storms out.
I've had enough of your abuse. I don't need this interrogation. I don't need it.
Abuse?
I don't need it.
If Rachel isn't interested in her restaurant, Gordon won't be either. The episode's final scene takes place at the Berkeley Hotel in London's Knightsbridge, where Gordon's Boxwood Cafe is located. Here, amid the professional kitchen, India meets a staff who might become her future colleagues. This moment marks the one positive outcome from what had been a very difficult situation. Ramsay said, "If Rachel can't see talent in India, I definitely can." An interview with India shortly after the episode aired revealed more about what happened during filming and afterward. When India returned to Paris, hoping to work there permanently, she discovered an abandoned restaurant in poor condition. The space was dirty and filled with flies, with Rachel nowhere to be found. India and Rachel's father were left to deal with the mess. Together, they spent 4 days cleaning the restaurant. India said, "It actually got so bad there one night, I left my jacket in the cellar, and in the morning it had been eaten by rats. That was it for me." Brian decided he had given his daughter enough chances. They closed the restaurant, and India found herself without work. She said, "Unfortunately, Rachel was an absolute nightmare to work with. I moved over there to run the kitchen, but it didn't work out, so I came back home to Scotland." Several weeks later, Gordon called India to find out what had happened. After hearing her story, he asked her to return to Paris to finish filming. Then he told her, "I've got a surprise waiting for you when you get here." His request for her to bring her chef's whites suggested what might be coming. When Ramsay couldn't convince Rachel to reopen the restaurant, India left Paris once again. Ramsay said, "I've offered her work at my London restaurant, the Boxwood Cafe." However, the televised version of events didn't tell the whole story. A later interview with India revealed that the episode's ending had been staged. The exterior shot of the Boxwood Cafe wasn't quite what it seemed. The scene of me in the kitchen was in Gordon's restaurant in Claridge's, not the Boxwood Cafe. I was just being shown around the operation to see if I would be interested in doing work experience in the future. Despite the staged nature of the footage, Ramsay's hospitality was genuine. While at Claridge's, she enjoyed an 8-course meal in his restaurant. Though the episode showed the restaurant closing in summer 2007, India's placement at the Boxwood Cafe wasn't set to begin until January of the next year. A statement from Ramsay's organization explained, "The reason she hasn't started is because we have been waiting for her to confirm when she can start." Meanwhile, India took a position at Shaw's Bistro, an international tapas bar in Edinburgh. Her new employers said, "We're so proud to have India as part of our team. She's a natural in the kitchen. No matter what happens with the Ramsay thing, she'll always have a job here if she wants it." Speaking about her upcoming London opportunity, India shared, "I can't wait. I am really hoping to impress while I am there. Gordon has said to me he has restaurants all over the world and I can take my pick. So it's absolutely amazing for me personally and for my career as a chef." About her connection with Gordon, she noted, "I'm the same age he was when he went to Paris for the first time. And of course, we're both Scottish, which might have helped a bit." She added, "He's such a lovely man. The aggressive TV image he has is just a front. He's a pussycat, really." India's influence grew beyond her TV appearance. After the show aired, she ranked number 13 on Scotland on Sunday's Top 50 Women of the Year. The interview revealed that despite working at a vegetarian restaurant, she enjoys meat dishes. Her interests were clear. She loves reggae and soul concerts, but preferred a good meal to going out clubbing. Her 2 weeks in the Boxwood Cafe kitchen took place in January 2008, and obviously went well, because Gordon visited her while she was there and watched on proudly, and even offered her a permanent position. India was homesick for her native Edinburgh, so she turned down his offer and made her way back to Scotland. But she had nothing but good things to say about her mentor and her 2-week stint, saying, My experience in London was amazing. Gordon is a great guy. He was good to me, taught me lots, and I love him to bits. He is a total gentleman and a family man. She would later take a job at Café Fish, a Scottish seafood restaurant nestled among the award-winning spots on Edinburgh's Michelin Mile. During this time, Piccolo Teatro remained empty and was listed for sale in the hope that Rachel's father could pay off the loan. Finally, in 2012, 5 years after the doors were closed for good, the restaurant reopened as an Italian eatery, Alimentali, serving fresh pasta, colorful salads, and Italian wines. The restaurant remains open today, proving that it wasn't the location that was a problem for Piccolo Teatro. In fact, many of their dishes are even vegetarian. The restaurant achieves a 4.4 out of 5 Google rating and 3.8 out of 5 on Yelp, with diners enjoying great food and service, even if the prices are a little high. During this time, India continued to work hard in the kitchen, building her career and reputation in roles at several highly regarded local pubs and restaurants. She was head chef at Jeremiah's Tap Room and spent time working at the award-winning Black Bull Hotel. The last professional update we have from India is that she was working at Ye Olde Inn in Edinburgh, which has a 3.5 on TripAdvisor. She also does some private chef work on the side. She clearly has fond memories of her time on Kitchen Nightmares, and still shares video clips and photos of herself with Gordon. She even had one of their photos laser etched onto an acrylic block as a memento of working with the Michelin-starred chef. As for the other people featured on the show, waitress Stephanie was pretty notorious among viewers, which is interesting since Gordon usually gets along great with the waitstaff. But she really rubbed people the wrong way when she walked out on Rachel during a crucial moment at the restaurant. We don't have an update on what happened to her after she left before the busy service. Then there was Daniel, the Brazilian chef whose conflict with Gordon took things to another level. What started as a heated kitchen confrontation with a knife ended rather bizarrely, with Ramsay carrying Daniel over his shoulder and running him down the street. Like Stephanie, Daniel seems to have disappeared from the public eye since then. Media outlets speculated on owner Rachel's fallout from Kitchen Nightmares. In a statement made to the Sun newspaper, she reportedly said, "Gordon did absolutely nothing for me. It became more chaotic after he turned up. He was a right flirt, showing as much interest in impressing me as sorting out the kitchen. Every time we went for a drink or took time off, he'd be leering or moaning about something. He was a real pain. Within days of him arriving in Paris, I knew I had to get out of the restaurant trade as quickly as possible. The whole experience really was a nightmare." Following the court's liquidation of her business, Rachel switched careers to begin working as an escort in Paris. She's quoted as saying, "I enjoy sex and was turned on by the idea of selling my body for money, so it wasn't much of a hassle. It's a great way to make money. I charge around £200 a time, and getting business is no problem at all. If they have any kinky suggestions, I might charge a bit more." Supposedly, Rachel even sent video clips of her time on Kitchen Nightmares to solicit potential clients. It seems unbelievable. I found no other sources besides the Sun article making this claim. From what I understand, the Sun isn't known for its credibility in the UK press, so consider this information cautiously. Rachel's often mentioned in lists of the worst ever owners on the show, with viewers labeling her spoiled and unappreciative of her father. Speaking of her father, you might have recognized him if you followed poker in the early 2000s. He appeared on Channel 4's Late Night Poker in 2000 and 2001 under the name Brian the Cowboy McNally. He also authored a book titled How to Play Poker and Win. The Piccolo Teatro episode has a 7.5 rating out of 10 on IMDb, making it the second highest rated episode of the UK Kitchen Nightmares, after only the Mama Sherry's Soul Food Shack episode. This might be the only episode of Kitchen Nightmares featuring nudity. Unless, of course, you consider Gordon's bare ass in the shower. Although the Piccolo Teatro episode is highly rated, viewers found this episode particularly frustrating due to the owner's spectacular incompetence in managing her Paris restaurant, a gift from her father. One of the top comments on the YouTube video sums it up perfectly. Imagine owning a restaurant in Paris, which a lot of people would die for. A world-famous chef coming to help your business, your dad investing his fortune, and having an amazing chef like India, and not giving a shit. This woman is truly something else. Yet, many viewers were just upset that they weren't one of the lucky ones to have a Michelin star chef cook their lunch for €6 at a small Parisian cafe. This unforgettable episode of Kitchen Nightmares illustrates how even with a prime location in Paris, financial backing, and guidance from a world-famous chef, a restaurant's success ultimately depends on the owner's dedication and passion.